Hi, my name is David Donoso, and you're watching Venezuelan Debunks The Empire Files, a comprehensive guide on This is part of a series dedicated to debunk Mike Prisner, an Iraq veteran linked to the Venezuelan government that has worked for Telesur, a one-sided media network that supports the Venezuelan government and other horrible people.
Who's paying you to do this?
Nobody, Mike! I just really want to be friends with you. So have your boots ready, army boy. Joropo is coming.
Supuestamente la frontera está cerrada y mire.
These are things that are known to be tactics of big business owners in the country, opposition politicians, and the U.S. government.
What this guy is doing is selling elaborated lies to people with no context. So I'll try to walk you through it in a comprehensive way, and if there's anything that I wasn't clear enough, let me know in the comments down below. Also, it's very important to point out I don't claim to be an expert. I've lived in Venezuela 25 years. The only thing that I have is more context to spot BS. Sources of my claims will be added in the description. Note that most of them are in Spanish because they are from the country, so have a tab ready for Google Translate. To his defense, he did say that this video was not funded by Telesur, but still he used a lot of their footage, repeats the same worn-out arguments they do, and some of his claims are from Telesur articles, so a good Chavista Busters knows when not to trust a possessed victim.
It's easy to see why Maduro has pissed people off, because he has managed Venezuela's economic crisis in the worst possible way. He's doubled down on many of Chavez's most unsound policies, like unrealistic currency and price controls, while attempting to make up for missing revenue by simply creating more money. And as a result, inflation has exploded. And inflation is just one of many reasons why many Venezuelans are struggling to find or even afford basic necessities like medicine or food. And those shortages have had some terrible consequences.
Well, if that's just one of many reasons, what are the other reasons? He doesn't list any of them. Well, here's a big one: an economic war that's undeniably being waged from within the country, from the biggest corporations, and from outside superpowers that have the ability to, sanction the country, prevent it from getting loans, increasing the price of its foreign debt, and things like that.
It's undeniable. It's undeniable. To look at the sources, please. Since the government wouldn't face the fact that their economic measures suck, they needed to create a new character on their mythology that they can blame for all the crap that they've done. And so, La Guerra Económica, the economic war, was born. When Telesur tries to define it, they say it's everywhere. They say it's in the crazy prices. But we know that those are a direct consequence of the black market they impose with their foreign currency controls. That also led to their regulated goods being resold to match the real market prices. The reseller mafia are often called bachaqueros, and even though the government blames them for food shortages, they admitted to use the services of bachaqueros because they want to skip the line.
And from outside superpowers that have the ability to, sanction the country, prevent it from getting loans, increasing the price of its foreign debt, and things like that.
And when Telesur blames foreign powers for the economic war, they base it on a measure determined by banks called riesgo país, or country risk, which is pretty much like a credit countries have based on how much they can trust them, not only to pay their debts, but as a whole. So even when they claim that Venezuela is never late on their payments, you've got to remember things like the oil prices drop, Venezuela Central Bank hiding the official numbers for inflation. Even Maduro admitted they don't have any more money to pay for the debts, and many other things.
Two of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's relatives have been indicted in the U.S. for cocaine smuggling.
Frankie Francisco Flores de Frates and Efrain Antonio Campo Flores were accused of conspiring to smuggle 800 kilograms of cocaine into the United States.
Okay, maybe not that, but would you trust them though? Watch this super chill dude trying to explain to a government supporter TV host how it doesn't make sense economically.
Exacto. ¿Cuál es el riesgo país? El riesgo país es el riesgo que tiene un acreedor que le presta a Venezuela de que no le paguen. O sea, es la valoración que hace el mercado de la probabilidad de default.
¿Cuánto hay de guerra económica en todo eso?
La principal causa de lo que está ocurriendo en la economía ahora son errores de política económica. Aún si el rol de la guerra económica, la conspiración fuese mayor al que yo pienso, la estrategia económica le estaría en ese supuesto haciendo fácil el trabajo de la guerra económica.
In case you were wondering, the Venezuelan government owes $65 billion just in bonds, international currency funds, I guess that's the translation.
$65 billion in bonds denominated in foreign currencies.
$2 billion in fees alone. We owe money to Russia, we owe money to China. It's like saying the bank is plotting against you because you are late on a credit card payment.
So regarding inflation, 70% of the country's inflation is due to the rate of exchange with the US dollar. This value of Venezuela's currency is arbitrarily determined by outside superpowers, mainly from Miami and Bogota.
Venezuela's economy is ruled by a black market the Venezuelan government imposed, not the empire, not Bush, any of those guys. In 2003, Chavez implemented currency controls through an institution known as CADIVI. This meant that the government became the sole administrator of American dollars. They decided how much foreign currency you could buy, when you could buy it, and who could buy it, including industries. So they froze the dollar in an imaginary number that made no sense, and they didn't have to because they would rarely hand them out. And after the oil prices crashed, they made it extremely hard for industries to get dollars, also forcing them to the black market, resulting in the product prices we see today. To explain CADIVI in its entirety can take a while, and what you need to know is that it changed name a couple of times, disappeared $25,000 million into thin air, and it later evolved to auctions known as DECOM, where they scam people. The state literally scams people.
But perhaps the biggest cause of inflation is what's called extraction smuggling, where big capitalists, those who have the ability to have large sums of cash, actually smuggle cash out of the country over the border into Colombia and other places and exchange them there.
Wait, are you telling me the military is involved? Because you know, they control the border. The same military that swore loyalty to Chavez? The same military they used to kill protesters? He's saying extraction smuggling causes inflation, right? Well, the first thing you need to know is what he's describing would cause the complete opposite of inflation.
To put it as simply as possible, if the only goods in the world were 4 pencils and the total money supply was $4, each of the pencils would cost $1. If the central bank would then create another $4 and the amount of pencils does not increase, how much would a pencil cost now? Exactly, $2. Monetary inflation is an increase in the quantity of money. Monetary deflation is the opposite phenomenon. It's a reduction of the money supply.
Try Googling yourself what will happen if money started disappearing or getting destroyed. Spoiler alert, it's not inflation. The only thing cash smuggling would cause in this case is price control by either freezing prices or slowing down inflation.
People put off purchases until later. If people keep putting off purchases and hoard their cash, the economy will slow down. A slowing economy lays off more workers, which causes less money to be spent, forcing further decreases in prices, which is called a deflationary spiral.
The government knows what deflation is because they very publicly have practiced it with massive withdrawals of the highest denomination bill, either by blaming mafias or saying that it would expire and then later taking back what they said. Just think of it this way. Who'd be more interested in freezing or lowering prices? The big capitalist this guy blames, or the government with the highest inflation rate in the world? Now, with that said, I try to find serious sources to back his claims, but the government blames everybody. They blame Colombia, they blame NGOs linked to the US Department of Treasury, lots of different countries, counterfeit mafias. And I want to talk about this a little, but not a single name of those evil executives were mentioned. I don't want to lose you in weird counterfeit conspiracies, but I think it's worth mentioning that also around that time, this video came out. Unofficial translations have said the guy is saying 600 billion. And he kind of sounds like he's saying 6 billion bill. But they completely ignored it. Media outlets circle back to the same tweet claiming the guy owns a supermarket, which of course made no sense because why would a shopkeeper keep that crazy amount of devalued money in his supermarket and record himself, knowing how dangerous that is in Venezuela? Regardless of the unofficial amount, you've got to consider they've arrested people for holding a lot less. Some go as far as saying this video is from China and the guy's linked to a counterfeit mafia, because report around that time mentioned that the same type of bill used to make bolívares could be turned to American dollars. The point is that we'll never know. According to an interview The Guardian had with a gang member of a counterfeit mafia that uses bolívares, the only reason they have access to that many bills is that the bill is already worthless. So even then, extraction is a symptom of inflation, not a cause. This guy is blaming those evil capitalist executives for smuggling that money through the border. A border heavily controlled by the government, with no evidence to his claims nor sources. You have to remember that this is the same government famous for imprisoning random people with no evidence. He says extraction mafias are responsible for inflation, right? In 2016, they said those mafias smuggled over 300 billion bolívares, which to the official exchange rate of the time translate to around $450 million, right? In 2014, Minister of Finance Jorge Giordani admitted they lost $25 billion with their currency control institution.
La renta es un medio de producción no producido, se capta del exterior y es importante. ¿Por qué creen ustedes que se eliminó el cisne? Porque era la cobija y la cobaja de los banqueros venezolanos. Ahí más de 25.000 millones de dólares se fueron y ahora están pensando en un sistema alternativo al cisne a ver si se sigue llegando a los reales.
Yeah, they lost $25 billion. No one was held accountable, they didn't look into that, they didn't draw any conspiracies on that. But yeah, blame those evil capitalists for inflation. The point is, if money extraction is taking place, they're not doing anything to stop counterfeit mafias that have stolen more than what they claim that got lost. It has nothing to do with capitalists nor big corporate nothing, and they're probably involved.
But it has nothing to do with inflation!
In addition to smuggling out cash that cause inflation, there's a huge amount of extraction smuggling of food products. In fact, 40% of products in the country are estimated to leave the country through extraction smuggling. And of course, these are things that are known to be tactics of big business owners in the country, opposition politicians, and the US government to intentionally cause inflation.
Opposition and who? The military is in charge of food distribution. Food smuggling is real. Gasoline smuggling is real, and it's mostly being carried out by the military. There's plenty evidence to this. There's videos that show food trucks exiting the border just when the government announced the border is closed.
Supuestamente la frontera está cerrada y mire.
La gasolina se la traen de Venezuela para Colombia.
And they go through military outposts, and you don't see this guy complaining. And it's not like I unraveled some mystery. There's news reports on this, and it's been going on for years. There's even a documentary where the military admitted corruption. They also show some independent smugglers with products that the military have early access to.
Arroz, pañales.
Side note, there's even videos of the military filling those cars.
Esto es Venezuela, ¿ves? ¿Ves? Sin placa, ¿ves? ¿Hasta cuándo esta mierda? ¿Hasta cuándo?
And you're blaming who? With what evidence?
These are things that are known to be tactics of big business owners in the country, opposition politicians, and the US government to intentionally cause inflation. Regarding food shortages, I mean, this is the number one thing we see, of course, the empty shelves on every single major media outlet. I did not see empty shelves anywhere. I saw a shortage of food, and I think if you are honest about Venezuela, you will acknowledge this fact.
He probably don't know this, and a lot of people don't know either, that in an attempt to hide the post-apocalyptic images that were coming out from the supermarkets, they tried banning taking pictures and videos.
Un miembro de seguridad del supermercado nos pide que dejemos de grabar y nos invita a salir del establecimiento.
I get it that it could be just bad advertisement for the supermarkets, but after people outraged claiming censorship, things got weird because the government would reportedly threaten supermarkets if they don't offer products on the shelves, forcing shopkeepers to fill their stores with repeated products all across the shelves.
Porque tienen un uniforme, simplemente quieren venir a amedrentar a la gente.
No quieren que grabemos, ¿por qué razón?
Porque no hay nada, señora. Porque no hay nada. Aquí no hay nada. Y lo que medio hay, vaya, miren, producto por producto, es todo repetido, porque tienen la orden de que tengan esto medio lleno.
There is not a generalized shortage of food. There is a shortage of particular food products. And what do all those products have in common? Well, they're the ones that are produced and distributed by the biggest corporations and monopolies in the country who are literally part of the political movement to oust the government. For example, 8 of the main items in Venezuela's food basket are foodstuffs that are produced by Polar, the country's biggest privately owned corporation and largest food manufacturer.
Hold it right there, I thought we were being honest. First of all, by 2010, the government already owned more than 50% of food production through public companies, not Polar. And actually, a poll revealed, even though that the government owns food distribution and more than 50% of food production, almost 78% of people said that they could only find Polar's food. So it's kind of a bit dishonest to blame them for the shortages.
Which is run by a Trump-esque right-wing billionaire who is a known actor in efforts to overthrow the government. It's responsible for most of the country's butter, oil, and flour, which are the most consumed products among Venezuelans. And of course, the products that are of most in shortage.
The government owns 18 of the 27 flour production factories in the country. Polar owns 3. Even though the government has this crazy potential, they only run it at minimum capacity. This is due that the government does not know how to run these industries without creating deficit, and that they break everything they touch, but we'll talk about that on another episode.
These companies produce the products, but refuse to release them to stores and into the economy. They instead keep them locked in their warehouses, refuse to let them out, or they send them out into the black market to be sold at an exorbitant markup, and of course also contribute to the rate of inflation and price hikes.
It's funny because the image he shows is when they intervene Hermanos Herrera C.A., a food distributor that the government claims is linked to an opposition party named Voluntad Popular. The government said on national television that the employees were glad the government jumped on this. But the testimonies of the employees revealed the opposite.
Todas las sedes de Herrera han quedado ocupadas. Ocupación temporal pasan a manos del Ministerio del Poder Popular para el Comercio. Nosotros hemos hablado con los trabajadores y trabajadoras. Buen espíritu. Las caras de ellos lo decían todo.
De que estemos los trabajadores de acuerdo, eso yo creo que ya lo ven en todos mis compañeros que no estamos de acuerdo. Es mentira. Hoy pasaron todo el día ellos arreglando el galpón de manera de que la mercancía se viera de como ellos querían que se viera.
Es un porcentaje ínfimo a la capacidad que tenemos de almacenaje.
They explained how the government piled the remaining boxes of the storages to record and take pictures.
So the price controls that Oliver mentions as one of Chavez's most unsound policies is a response to this. When major corporations price gouge to intentionally make essential products out of reach to poor and working families, the government can either just let them do that or impose price controls and force discounts on the products so that people can get them. I'm sure the CEOs don't like that very much, but that's a debate for another time.
You got him! You got him! This is just embarrassing, man. You're embarrassing yourself. The whole fighting the big corporate monster is just like a socialist clickbait. It's just like a publicity stunt. They not only meet with him to figure stuff out because they suck, but also taking down Lorenzo Mendoza is something the Venezuelan government has had a hard-on for decades. The truth is that they have not found a single thing, there's not a single real proof that the guy is hoarding. 13 years. In 2005, Chavez's dad tried expropriating one of Polar facilities, Barinas 1, claiming that it had been on a priority for 3 years. And they dropped the case after their studies concluded that it never stopped production. Many said that this was part of a grudge Chavez had with Mendoza and goes back to the coup, but we'll hit that on another episode, because not even Chavez could prove he hoarded. In 2010, Chavez confiscated 114 tons of food from one facility in Barquisimeto. And in response to Chavez's claims, they issued a statement where they made very clear Alimentos Polar distributes monthly more than 100,000 tons of food in the national territory. Consequently, the confiscated volume is equivalent to 0.1% of the total. This indicator shows the absurdity of the hoarding accusation. Also adding, the national government makes a complete monitoring of the products from the moment it leaves our factories until it reaches each point of sale throughout the national territory. There were other times they blamed Polar, one of them in another ranch in Anzoátegui, where an employee accused Polar of hoarding in national television, but not even the TV host believed the guy.
Es que hay que ser muy responsable y hacer una denuncia con fundamento.
This is because not only the guy had a very shady criminal record, but because they had already looked into it and didn't find anything. Later, the manager of customer service at the facility, Lorenzo Marcano, said that the team that went on national television had nothing to do with food production nor distribution. He also gave a tour to reporters around the facilities, explaining thoroughly that the food does not stay more than 1 day on their storages. Also explaining that it's impossible for them to hoard products because every product that goes in and out is authorized by the government.
Look, and I can go on forever, showing how they really have no evidence against Polar. They would just show up, say the guys are hoarding, steal their food, and completely ignore all the procedures they invented. Let's put it this way. If Polar is hoarding, why do they meet with Lorenzo Mendoza? And why is it that nobody from Polar has been arrested yet? There are other food manufacturers that have been accused of hoarding, and they've been pretty unfair with them.
Let's try with this analogy. Animals store food because as seasons change, there's less and less chances of finding food at the next season. Now back to Venezuela. Let's say you're in the sugar business. You have some sugar that you don't want to sell at the moment because you overproduce to make up for the next season that it's not going to be fertile. Well, in Venezuela, the government would come in, kick your butt, steal your sugar, and sell it using their proclaimed fair prices without even reasoning, completely ignoring the fact that some things like rice, flour, have seasons and take time to produce. In the case of sugar, it's called zafra. That's the main reason why they built storages in the first place. So, what would happen if you eat today the food that you had planned for tomorrow? No wonder why things take longer to reappear. And well, Mikey, I've explained why they needed to hoard products. But why don't you explain to me why did they have to use the central bank to hoard sugar?
Mira, el Banco Central de Venezuela. Mira estos camiones de seguridad que están aquí. Y toda esta movilización son únicas y exclusivamente para bajar candela de azúcar. Mira cómo llevan el azúcar ahí. Mira. Donde llevan el oro. Ah, bueno, ahí es donde llevan azúcar. En camiones blindados, no te lo pierdes. Mira cómo los meten para allá adentro.
Long story short, the whole economic war thing is just a facade. It's just a disguise of the economic strategy they are implementing.
After things started disappearing, people started to freak out. They started buying every amount of the things that they know that they wouldn't see in the future. This and because of the resellers mafia that we talked about. And they basically get early access to the product, earlier than anyone else. And we know that the military is responsible of food distribution. So,
and look, there's hoarding that's going on, but it's not linked to any political parties. It's just a symptom of inflation. Even one of their food coordinators of one of the projects that this guy is proud of got arrested with charges of hoarding. So, but they don't say that. They just want to say that the big capitalists did it, and they live in complete denial.
Anyone who knows anything about Venezuelan politics knows that the inflation rate, the economic crisis, and the food shortages are the number one focus of the entire government and everyone who is politically active. Stopping the economy of extraction smuggling, where all the trade routes of products and cash being snuck across the border.
Como dirían los de Gigantes del Vallenato, ¡qué descaro! Pasar esta mercancía a esta hora, Dios mío, mismo. La revolución bolivariana y quieren trancar la frontera peatonal por el supuestamente contrabando. ¡No joda! Miren mismo. Señoras y señores, le tenemos la información al punto. No fue una, ni fueron dos. Fueron muchas las supuestas gandolas que pasaron la merced de Bielma Mora. nuevo ministro de Comercio Exterior Frontera.
Another major action the Maduro government has taken on a regular basis is consistently raising the minimum wage in the country to keep up with inflation.
That's complete denial.
The most recent was a nearly 60% wage increase, which followed a 40% wage increase and a 50% wage increase just months before.
That's the definition of inflation.
Now, imagine that one day the government of the United States decides to make their people very happy by printing more money, raising the wages, and all the other possible payouts. Most of it will be spent. Yeah, it will. And the first thing I would do is go down to Walmart and grab the latest iPad. But guess what? I'm not the only one who runs out to buy an iPad, and this causes some problems for Walmart. Why do they have to keep their prices the same if they don't have enough iPads to sell for everyone? So, Walmart will raise the price and we'll have a massive inflation.
And in fact, a topic of virtually every speech that Maduro gives is how they're solving the problems of inflation, food shortages, and the economic war that's being waged against the country. But yeah, complete denial.
There are many things that contribute to shortages. The same goes with inflation. If you force companies to the black market, prices will be higher. Not all of them will be able to afford the black market system, so many products will disappear. You're just creating an acidic environment with all this craziness. It's just helping that economic war. And ironically, they depend on these companies they hate because they create deficits. So I hope I helped. I hope I helped to explain everything out. It's very complicated. I'm sorry. I know that most of the video is just me reading news, and it's exhausting. But I hope I could prove to you unbiasedly with evidence. I mean, like, I am biased. I had to leave my country because of this. No, I really think that they understand what they are doing. They're just in complete denial. Like this guy. Guys, this is it for now. My name is David Donoso. More than likes or subscribes, I would like you to share this video. It's very important that people share this message because they're starting to believe the bull this guy is saying. If you want to continue watching these videos, I'll be making a full series on debunking the Empire Files. Make sure to subscribe if you like this content. I'm fighting bullshit 1/3 at a time. Thanks for watching. Peace!